Well, welcome to the podcast today. Yes, as you know, we go all around the world to find the best guests. I'm your host, Rob Elliott. Today, we've gone to the south of Italy. We have a lovely lady here by the name of Mirav Tarkka. She is a power coach. She's had an amazing life. She's also an author, and she's a mum of two beautiful young little girls. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm absolutely awesome. What's it like over in Italy at the moment?
Oh, it's hot. It's
Yeah.
30 degrees, although it's supposed to start being cooler.
Yes.
Um, it's nice here in the south. Food is great. Beaches are amazing.
Beautiful part of the world, I'm told.
Yeah, I'm exactly in the heel of Italy. So if you see the map of Italy and there's a heel, it's a stiletto. I'm the heel of the stiletto.
But you don't have an Italian accent. Where were you born?
I am a proud Israeli.
Yeah.
Was born 40 years ago in Israel, in a beautiful little city called Nahariya, which
Yes.
is on the border of Lebanon,
Yes.
which is why my little city have gone through a lot of wars because we were constantly bombed
Yeah.
from all sides.
Yes.
Yeah, and I came to Italy in 2006.
Wow. So what was it like if you look now, life in Italy versus life in Israel? What would have been
Oh,
what's the biggest difference for people who have never been to Israel?
well, Italy is the complete opposite of Israel,
Yeah.
which is probably why I decided to stay here, although I love Israel with all my
Yeah.
heart. But when I left Israel, Um, Israel was just recuperating from the last war.
Yeah.
So my city was completely black. Everything was smoke and
Mm,
ruins, and um, still recuperating economically, and everything was broken there. Uh, Israel is a place where people die quite
yeah.
often. So I was just 26 when I left Israel, and I had so many friends who I lost, and
Yeah.
it was very painful. I also personally had a lot of pain in Israel. I suffered there a lot. I was living in the streets for a while. I had abusive relationships. I was almost raped. Um, I was almost hostaged
Yeah.
when I was in the military, and for me, Israel is as it's so beautiful and so um, it's a country where I was born in, and I
Yeah.
swore to defend it with my life. It's still a very painful part of my life that I left there. And
Yeah.
then there's Italy, which Italy everything is green and hasn't had war for many years. People
Yeah.
don't know what it is to run to the shelters, but in the same time, they live in this kind of fantasy land that nothing can ever happen here.
Yeah.
So it's like a fake sense of security that Israelis are the exact opposite. They are more paranoid. Every smashed door that we hear, it means that there's a bomb coming, so we run to the shelter. And
Mm,
here, when I jump and I startle because there are fireworks or something, nobody understands it. Um, the food is completely different, the atmosphere is different, and then there's this whole relaxing siesta mode. So Israel is like, yeah, Israel is 7 days a week. There's always action. Gyms are open 24 hours.
yeah.
Restaurants. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, my voice today is extremely sexy because yesterday I got this little bug from my child. My cover story is that I've been partying all night, and
Yes.
this is how my voice works. So Israel, wherever you go, there are long lines of people. People are stressed, running all over. We
Yeah.
take no coffee breaks there, no lunch breaks there. It's 24 hours, just action, action, action. Because what's behind it is that life is really short, and we know it.
Yeah.
So every moment matters. We use every moment we can. We go out in every moment we can. We hardly sleep. And Italy is a country where, South Italy, where the shops open at 10 a.m. and then they close at 12 p.m. after 2 hours for a siesta that goes for 6 hours because it takes 6 hours to eat all the meals that they have for lunch. Then they open again at 6 and they close at 8. and then they eat dinner, and they are closed on Saturdays and Sundays, and then Mondays, because Monday is, it's a Monday and half of Tuesday. So it's like complete opposite.
Wow.
And there's no the roughness that is in Israel. So for me, that change was, as much as it was shocking, um, it was exactly what my soul needed, because it was just too much for me.
Yeah.
Israel was too much for me at that point.
So when you left Israel, you spent a couple of years in the armed forces there, and
Yeah.
you did a bit of study. What did you do for a living when you left Israel?
Oh, everything.
Yeah.
Uh, I probably did every job in this planet in
Yeah.
Israel, but then in a certain point, I studied psychology and criminology in the university.
Yep.
So I worked at the time as a social worker. I worked in jails. I did all kinds of cool stuff like that. I also did all the normal student jobs, restaurants, bars, cleaning,
Yeah.
teaching, things like that. Then I started working in gyms,
Yep.
was one great passion of mine. So that was fun.
Is that where the
Uh,
sexy warrior tag came from?
the sexy warrior, it came from my life, as I had a hard life. I
Yeah.
had a very challenging life, and I almost died a few times. And like I said, I lived in the streets, and I had to escape quite dangerous situations. And if it wasn't for my warrior spirit, me wanting, determined to surpass that, to survive that, to keep on living and keep on living the life the way I wanted to live it. If it wasn't for that, wouldn't be here today. I would have died. So that spirit of warrior that was with me, and I
Mm,
think I developed it when I started learning more martial arts. I was
mm.
many years in Muay Thai. That is where I developed that, that no fear attitude, which saved my life. Um, the sexiness came later. First came the warrior, then
First
came the
came the
sex.
warrior. Sexiness
Yeah,
came after midnight at night, did it?
yeah. Well, the warrior, like when I moved from Israel to Italy, I moved all by myself, and
Yeah.
I didn't know the language. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any money. I don't know how I had the guts or the stupidity to do it, but I did it. And my warrior spirit was constantly there protecting me. So,
So these days you hear it, you can hear speak to Tony Robbins, you can speak to all the top coaches around the world and business leaders, Richard
yeah,
Branson, all the guys say
yeah,
that, and some of the even Oprah and all these people say that to be successful in business or in life now, you've got to have a healthy body, you've got to
yeah,
have a healthy mind, you've got to be
yeah,
fit. And I was reading up on you, and that's and very strong spirituality. You see, you've got to have a lot of things inside of you to be right. And when I was reading at one of your books and having a look around, that's something that you try to instill in people these days. Where
yeah.
did that come from, and how did you get started on the journey of empowering, especially ladies, to be powerhouses in business and to live a better life?
Um, well, the one thing that saved me from dying practically, or going into really deep depression, or
Yeah,
all of those pitfalls, was training.
yeah,
Um, Wherever I was in the world, whatever I was going through, if I found a gym or a boxing bag or a way to train, I knew I can survive. So I would look in the mirror and I would feel strong no matter
mm,
what's going around me. And I remember days that I would, especially when I got to Italy at first, and I knew no one. I had no one to talk to. I didn't know how to talk to anyone.
yeah.
I found this gym, um, and this guy, the owner of the gym, he somehow understood me. And I had no money, and I told him with my hands that I really need to train. And he let me to train there for free for months. And he got it. He just got it that, training for me was a lifesaver. So I would sometimes run there barefoot on the rainy streets of Italy because I was going through something, and I just needed to hit the sack. I just needed to hit the boxing bag and to feel strong again. And I would hit it until my knuckles were bleeding and I had tears all over my face, but I would feel so relieved inside. And those episodes took me out of that dark place where I wanted to go through and out to the light.
Yeah.
Um, so this is where I understood more and more that, I have that power to pull myself out of those holes, and I have the power to be as strong as I am physically, as I was physically when I was hitting that bag or when I was lifting those weights in my life, and I can survive everything.
Yeah.
And later on, in Italy, I became a self-defense instructor because we do self-defense in Israel, Krav Maga, ever since we're 5 years old.
Yep.
And I just started working with that because it was the easiest thing for me to do as an Israeli in Italy. And I had so many students, and I've seen them transforming in front of my eyes when I would teach them things that
Yeah.
could save their life, when I would push them to their limits because I applied with them what I passed, what I went through. So they would hit the bag also, and I would scream at them to get it all out there. I would scream at them that they are animals, that they are warriors, that they can do anything they want to in life, and they have went through huge transformations. People who have trained with me. So I realized that it's not just me that exercise has saved, and this kind of exercise, that exercise that takes all your rage out. Um, it's something that everybody can lean on, and I've always been healthy thanks to my exercise and the way I eat and so on.
Yep.
So, of course, that also helped me to go through all what I went through, and nothing happened to me. I didn't get sick. I didn't get involved in all kinds of bad shit because, of course, focusing on sports, on my health, on the gym took me away from all the dark places that I could get to, especially
Yeah.
when I was really poor. And it was easy to fall into those places.
You
Uh,
you mentioned on your website you called a power coach.
yeah, yeah,
What
I'm
is a
constantly.
power coach for our listeners?
Well, a power coach for me, it's someone who manages to connect you to your power,
Yeah.
because we all have it. We all have that power of warrior.
Mm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be living. It's the power that gives you your first breath and takes you through things in life. And but most people forget about that power because most people don't need to survive constantly, and that's great. So that warrior kind of goes to sleep in you, and you just live your normal life,
Yeah.
autopilot, 9 to 5, do whatever you need to do without thinking too much. And I train people to connect to that power and to use it, if not for survival, for getting your life to the next step.
Yeah.
So by reaching into that power inside of you, connecting to that power, nurturing that power, unleashing that power, you can conquer anything you want, because that power is everything. That's your full potential.
Have you ever had a client come to you that's just totally broken inside and just needed to couldn't find the power and just needed to be brought back up?
I had many, especially women, because
Yeah.
when I was teaching self-defense, I had women who came after being attacked,
Yes.
um, after being raped, and it's not easy, because this is when I also started understanding that I could teach in a very superficial level, to be honest, like most instructors do. So just
Yes.
teach, okay, this is a punch, this is how you defend against a punch, job done, do that for 500 times and go home and pay me.
Yeah.
But I was never a superficial person. And when I started investigating more the reasons why people come and train, and how I can give them a more profound experience that will last for a lifetime, because eventually we can be weak, we can have a bad day, we
Yes.
can be physically weak, we can be injured in the streets under an attack. We are injured, we are suffering from pain, surprise, and fear. So the mental training is much more important. So I started working more and more on the mind, on the power of the mind, teaching people how to use the mind more than the body, in a way that I could teach people that couldn't work with their body to work with their mind. And that is when the real transformation came in. That is when people managed to change the way they looked at life, and prevent danger and so on. And in those cases that people were broken, this is where they found the real power inside themselves, slowly rebuilding themselves, recreating themselves, um, dealing with the trauma.
Yeah.
My background in psychology has helped also there. I've done a lot of investigations of my own, studying the mind of a criminal and the mind of a victim and how they attract each other, and why do they choose each other, and
Yeah.
how they can unchoose each other. And this is what I would teach people, because when you are in a situation that you are broken, if there is a situation like that, because I don't believe that anyone is really broken. I believe we're all whole and we go through experiences, which of course there are many ways to deal with it. But when you understand how how you can prevent it from happening, how you do have the power to change your life and to rebuild it and everything, that is where the real transformation happens. That is what I went through. I went from breakdown to breakthrough
Yes.
again and again and again.
And what was it like the first time when you started doing this coaching, when you saw that change inside of someone, when you saw them get what you were showing, like that light bulb moment? How did that make you feel?
Oh, it's incredible. It's better than any amount of money or fame that one can get. And
Yeah.
I've had students that um, that really transformed their life. If it was business wise, if it was the parenthood, if it was even getting pregnant, and
Mm,
going through life transforming events and having that power and that determination that they didn't imagine that they have to go through.
yeah.
Um, Loads and loads of letters and messages from people that have gone through that experience, and they went to the next level. It's an amazing feeling, and I have many stories about that. But um, if I could just think about one moment where I could actually see the transformation happening,
Yeah.
it's when I would do my lessons, when I would do my physical lessons. I would explain things and then I would apply it physically.
Yeah.
And the look in the eyes that changes completely from someone who just came to my lesson, especially the first time, and they come like their eyes are down and they're looking at the floor and they're like they don't know what to do, they're embarrassed, they're not feeling that confident. And then by the end of the lesson, their eyes are like wide open and they're sparkling and they're feeling so confident and powerful, and that feeling that they're unstoppable. And then they go and then they change their lives because they feel that they can,
Yeah.
through whatever I do with them. I
And
have all kinds
also,
of
it's
videos.
it's it's a question I love to ask people who work one on one. I've asked it of stage performers when they got their first big applause, or trainers, or coaches, and they all, as soon
Yeah.
as I ask it, it's, if anyone who gets a chance to watch the YouTube version of this, you see your face light up from this side, and you can hear it in your voice. It all changes because it's something that
Yeah.
you're proud about. If
Yeah.
a young lady came to you in her mid-20s and she was just so existing, as we call it, just going through the boring ho hum of life, and she wanted to take her job, her relationships to the next level, she wanted to be a better person than what she is, what is two or three things that she should concentrate on?
Well, every person is different. So when I would
That's
work with
true.
people one on one, I do need to go really deep into the details and understand what they're going through, how their life looks like. Um, I think that if I divide it into just three general steps, the first
Yeah.
one would be to be completely clear about where you are right now and how your life looks right now. And, if there is any pain to go through, that's the moment to go through the pain. I don't
Yeah.
believe in avoiding any of that, but I also don't believe in digging in the dirt, for hours. I just believe like, looking yourself in the mirror,
Mm,
which was one of my greatest aha moments, looking in the mirror and seeing exactly who you are
yeah.
without any judgment or shame or guilt, but just this is who I am. The next step is, who do you want to become? What do you want to do? How do you want to see yourself by the end of this journey? And then creating that plan of attack, I call it, between the point of exit and the point of arrival,
Yeah.
where we do everything with whatever method suits that person.
It's there's a saying that I've heard many times. It says, "Your past doesn't equal your future
Yeah,
unless you live there." How do
yeah.
you coach and help, especially young ladies who are really living their past and they can't? I know let go is the wrong term, but they're that entrenched in what's happened before. It's holding them back moving forward. How do you handle that when someone comes to you?
That's a tough question.
Mm,
Because, yeah, because there are so many methods, and I personally, I sometimes still, go back to the past, because
yeah,
the beliefs pull you back, and situations pull you back, and fears pull you back. And I went through NLP training and hypnotic training and all kinds of things like that. But um, I personally really believe in physical anchors. So I would do something physical with that person that would help to let go of the past. Um, Sometimes it would be something very harsh but very symbolic, like writing that situation on a board, on a wooden board, and then
yeah,
breaking through it,
yes, yes,
or burning it. Yeah, more simple would be to just write it on a piece of paper and burn it, and throw it away. But I am quite dramatic with my methods. um, or something that I really love to do. I call it release the beast.
yes,
Yeah, and it's for everybody. So they would write whatever it is that is holding them back, or whatever it is that also fears or blocks or whatever, on a blank piece of paper,
yep,
with in any language they want. They don't even have to show it to me.
yep,
And then they would paste it on what I would paste it on a focus mat, and then I would wrap it around the wall, or a big teddy bear or chair or something. But people who don't have that, they just do it around the pillow.
yep,
And then I would put one of my loud musics,
yes,
that I have this Israeli DJ that makes amazing music that I can use in my training, and it's crazy.
yeah,
And sometimes we would do it with our eyes closed, or in this way, with something on the eyes. So the only sense that you feel is your body and that music that is going bam, 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 bam. And you smash the shit out of that piece of paper
awesome,
until it becomes threads. Yeah. And some of the students sometimes would get so excited that they would continue after the music, and the knuckles would be full of blood and everything like it. Which I think it's good, that you get it all out there, release the beast, release that rage, and let go of it. This is something that has always helped me. It has helped so many of my students, but of course, there's no one solution that suits everybody 100%. Some
yeah,
people need a softer approach.
did,
Um,
yeah,
but this is the way that I would do things. And I studied psychology, and I've been through psychologists. I have done so many things to heal what I've went through. And when I went to psychologists and they kind of told me to talk about my problem again and again and again, that didn't help me. I
no,
wanted how to let go of that, and how to leave it in the past. And I wanted a 1, 2, 3 thing. Like, what is the first thing I do? What's the second thing I do? What's the third thing I do? Okay, bye bye now. And no one gave it to me.
no,
I had to invent it. So when I found that way of smashing the shit out of the boxing bag, out of that piece of paper, ripping it to pieces. I would rip it and I would spit on it, and I would take it and throw it somewhere really far away, or bury it somewhere. And then I would focus on, what do I do from now? How do I grow from this? What do I learn from this? How do I prevent it happening again? And building that plan in my head of becoming a better version of me, an even better version of me, that is smarter and sees things, from an upper point of view, and manages to build a better life from now on.
do you think some people repress that energy and rage, but for cultural reasons? Or I know a young lady shouldn't behave like this, so they just push it, or especially men young men, they push it down and push it down, and then it gets to a stage when it just explodes, and they get
Yeah,
in more trouble than it's really
yeah.
worth.
Or it doesn't explode; it explodes. It suffocates them from inside,
Yeah,
and it comes out as diseases. Absolutely, not, many people. But I think when I've had students that when they come to me, they were on that point of exploding,
yeah.
and it feels like a big balloon, and all you have to do is go pluk,
I
and
think
it
you,
explodes.
listening to you today, I think you would enjoy doing that somehow.
Exploding them. I create a safe, happy space to explode there, and I've had students who through the exercise they started crying, they started laughing. I had students who fainted, who vomited, who needed to take time out, who sat down and wrote everything. I've seen it all, so I know, and I know also how it feels to suffocate your story and to suffocate your pain, um, because I was living a life where I was trying to please everybody else and not
Yep.
being myself and suffocating who I was really. It was the right thing to do, or I didn't want anyone to get angry at me or anyone to blame me for whatever.
So how
And I know how
important?
it feels. Yeah,
Yeah. So
sorry.
how important is self-love and spirituality when it comes to being successful and being a better person?
Oh, it's the most important part.
Yeah. How do you teach
Yeah.
that?
We learn it through all our lives.
Yeah.
I think, there is no level of maximum self-love that you can get to. It just keeps on happening, and I'm still learning how to do it.
Yeah.
There's this film that my daughters love. It's called Shrek.
Yes. Yes. My granddaughter
Yeah,
does too. Yes.
yeah, it's brilliant. I love it too. It's not like the normal Disney movies that everybody is perfect. It's completely
Ah,
imperfect. And in Shrek 1, he talks about himself as being like an onion. And he
yes.
says, ogres are like onions. They have layers, and you have to peel them to get to know them. And this is how I see every one of us. We are born, and we probably know ourselves best when we are born, and then by the time we get old enough, we're already so full of layers and layers and layers, and then we start peeling them. And the more we peel, and we have the courage to peel that, and the courage to look ourselves in the eye, and to dare, and to be, and to not judge ourselves, this is where the self-love starts growing and growing. And it's happening to me. It happened to me, and it's a beautiful voyage, but it really has to come from within. And I do think that the more you're connected to yourself, so the more you're connected to your spirituality, to your spirit, the more you are able to fall in love with yourself. I don't know any spiritual people who don't love themselves. I
Yeah.
don't. And the more I learned about myself, because when I started all my self growth part, it was actually when I came to Italy, because all the part in Israel was very dark and very
Mm.
hectic, and um, it's like I didn't have space there for me. And I came to Italy, and um, they say in our military in Israel that in order to create a good soldier, its identity has to be first destroyed. I know it sounds horrible. Military is like that. They
Yes.
take away your clothes, they take away your name, they take away everything. You just become a soldier with a number, and you have to fill orders, and whatever you want doesn't matter.
Yeah.
um, it's true though that when you want to build your new identity, or when you're completely destroyed, then you have the chance to rebuild yourself.
Yeah.
So this is what happened to me in Italy. I came here, and everything that I knew was not there anymore. I didn't have my friends, I didn't have my language.
Yeah.
I knew nothing. I knew just ciao bella. I didn't have money. I didn't have all my degrees. I came here. I had a degree in psychology, criminology, physical education. I had 2 years in the military. I knew three languages, but I didn't know Italian. And everything that I had, everything that I know, and everything that I was destroyed. I was nothing. But
So
it
you're
was
like a
then that
soldier.
I was, yeah.
In many ways, you're
Then I
like the
was,
soldier you described, where they took everything away
yeah.
and you
And
rebuilt
it was
yourself.
really hard. It was really, really tough. I don't know how I managed to go through all of that because I remember those days. I remember walking in streets that I don't have any idea where I am. I don't know where to get to where I want to because I don't know how to talk. I had no phone. Um, I was just completely lost and I was crying all the time. I was really suffering. It was very dark for me. But it was then that I had one of my biggest aha moments. And I was like, okay,
Yes.
I'm here now. So it's a good chance for me to build myself from zero, just the way I vision myself, just the way I want to become. And it wasn't a one night thing, it was something that it took me years. But I was really lucky because in one of my searches for solutions, I bumped into my first life coach.
Mm.
And he took one look at me and he said, you really need to learn to love yourself. You are constantly walking with your eyes down. It was true. I was constantly walking like this. I was afraid. I think I was afraid of being me. It was just I was getting so many hits wherever I went. So I was, it's like a little puppy that constantly gets kicked in his face, and then he's just like walking like this with the tail, all scared to
Yeah.
wag even. And then he just started teaching me all kinds of exercises that I did in front of a mirror and talking to myself, EFTs and tapping exercises and different things that I did to convince myself to change the whole system that I had in my head from sabotaging and hating who I was into exploring who I was and learning
Yeah.
to love myself.
Is this
And that
where
was
you?
magical.
Is this where the inspiration become an author start?
What do you mean?
Well, before you for someone to start writing, they need
Oh,
normally inspiration or something that happens in the life. Going, shivers, I should write that down, or I should tell people about that. Is that when that started,
um,
or did that come later in life?
well, that came very early. I knew how to write and read in two languages when I was just 3 or 4 years old.
Mm.
I loved writing. When I was really young, when I was a child in Israel, I adored our soldiers, our Israeli soldiers. I was in love with every single soldier. And I would write them poems. I was at 8 years old and I wrote my first poem to a soldier. It was so beautiful that it was published in a magazine in Israel. And nobody knew it was written by an 8-year-old. They all thought it was like some kind of
Yeah.
famous person, but because I sent it anonymously. But it was me.
So there is a
And
softer
I wrote,
side to you.
oh, I'm so soft and romantic and sensitive. It's I cry each and every time when I watch Aladdin. I'm like, oh, yeah. And yeah, I'm the type of person who would, stop for kittens in the street and be late to the kindergarten later on because there was a kitten. And yeah, I'm that. I'm super sensitive.
Yeah.
It doesn't contradict, a strong person can still be sensitive and still cry. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't lose my romantic spirit. Anyway, I always loved writing and I wrote to myself a lot, and I wrote letters, and I wrote
yeah.
poems, and I wrote all the high school, shows and things like that. And then I stopped because life got crazy,
Yeah.
and there was no space for me to write. And there was one really bad episode where I would write to myself. I would write like a diary, and it was my first boyfriend. Um, Crazy story, really bad story. Um, but long story short, he would leave me all the time. And one of the times that he left me, um, I found a solution to my loneliness. He would leave me without a reason, and I would sit in my apartment all alone and cry for hours. I was kicked out of my home, so I had this little rented apartment, disgusting little apartment, full of cockroaches all the time, and
Yeah.
So I was sitting there surrounded by cockroaches and crying because he left, and I had no idea why he left, and it was crazy. And then I found a solution for those lonely nights, and that was going out clubbing and finding other guys to be with.
Yep.
So I was in my 20s, and it was a relief for that moment. And then I felt bad about it, but it was a cycle that kept on going because the loneliness that I felt in the little apartment full of cockroaches was my worst enemy. It was my worst fear. I couldn't stand it. And therefore, for me, being with any other person, even, I didn't care who I was with, I just didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And then I would get back to my cockroach apartment, and I would sit down in my diary, and I would feel so empty because that episode is finished, and I would pour everything into the paper. I
Yeah.
would write and write, and my tears would go down, and it was like my only way to relieve that pain.
Yeah.
So that became a habit for every time that that guy left, which was quite often. And then one day he came as a surprise to my apartment, and he looked around and he found my diary, and he read everything that I wrote, all
Yeah.
my secrets, all my crazy sexual episodes that I had because I didn't want to be alone, and he didn't understand the depth of pain and loneliness
Yeah.
and fear that went there. All he saw was that I was sleeping around with everybody.
Yeah.
So he broke all my apartment and he shoved a gun in my mouth. And then he turned it and he shoved it in his own mouth. And it was a very traumatic moment because I didn't know. For a second there, I just hoped that he would shoot and finish with it. And then I was just so scared. And then I felt all this shame of what I've done to him. I didn't think about me, about what I've been
Yeah.
doing to my body, to my soul. I was thinking about him, and I stopped writing. I didn't write again. It was uh, it was too much for me.
Yep.
I was too scared that anyone would read what I wrote.
Yeah.
And years have passed, and then I changed countries, and I came to Italy, and I only wrote when I really had to, and I wrote it in Hebrew so no one would understand.
Yes.
Um, but it wasn't that free writing that I would give myself the permission to do years ago. Then one day, it was 2 years ago. I had a life coach, another life coach, and I was talking to him, and I was telling him my story. He asked me about what led me, like you're asking me now, and I was telling him all my story, and it was instead of like 30 minutes, it went for over I think 3 hours, and he was the whole time he was like, what? What? In the end, he was like, listen, you have to write this. Like, no, I can't. He said, you have to write this because this is suffocating you and your voice needs to be out there. And your story could inspire so many people. And I said, I can't write it. I'm scared. What are you scared of? I said, well, if my family reads it, they will never talk to me again. They will hate me. And he said, well, that's their choice. That's their decision.
It is.
But
Yeah.
you have the right to write your story, and you owe it to yourself. You don't have to publish it if you don't want to, but sit down and write it. And I said, you know what? It is time that I liberate myself because I was feeling it was heavy on me. I felt that, you know, I didn't get a chance to tell my story. When I tried to tell my story to my family, they didn't believe me, and they would ridicule me or tell me that I'm a liar or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get it out of me. It was suffocating me, like what you said before, when you don't let that rage out.
Yes. So you did
So that
write it?
day, I did write it. I sat that day until the day I published my first book. It took me 26 days. I wrote a
Wow.
whole book in 26 days. Yeah, and I was moving apartments with my children. I was living in North Italy. I moved to the south. I packed the car, packed the girls, And when they were sleeping in between suitcases, I was writing and drinking.
So what's the name of the book?
That book was Undefeatable.
Yep.
It's my story,
Yes.
and it was painful and beautiful and liberating and um, challenging to write it. And I wrote
Wow.
it and published it in 26 days. It was a bestseller, and I was so proud and so scared in the same time because me, I didn't know
Mm.
nothing about writing or publishing or anything, and there my book is out there, and loads of people are buying it. People who don't know me, and they're reading all about my sex life, my adventures, my pain, my everything. I didn't spare anything. I just wrote. And you know what I wrote? It was so raw when I wrote it because I would sit down, I would put a timer, I would put a candle, I would put my earphones on, and I would write and write and write until the timer goes off on. And then I would just send it to the editor and I didn't look at it again.
Yeah.
And I only read it after the book was published, and I was like, oh my God. It was like I was in a trance. It was like someone else was with me in my life, writing exactly, what was there. Things that I didn't even remember were written there because I was in that trance of going back into my life and writing it and liberating it. And you know what? Yeah, my family got super angry and yeah, and
You know what?
judgy and
When I've coached people, I just say that when they say they're worried about what their family or friends will think, I just say it's just an opinion.
yeah,
It doesn't matter. It's just an opinion,
yeah.
and
And you know
the only
what?
opinion that
I
matters
was
is your own.
I was hoping, I didn't want my family to read my book. I don't think they read my book. They just heard from people around
Yeah.
that I wrote some things. But what I was afraid of is not that, what I was afraid that they would actually read what I wrote and that their heart would break, understanding what I went through
Yeah.
and understanding the amount of responsibility they had for what I went through. That was what I was afraid of. I wasn't afraid of them saying, "Oh, you are whatever." Um, then when the "oh, you are whatever" came, I was okay. At least their
Yeah.
heart isn't broken, because I do have the right to tell my story. Everybody has the right to tell their story, whatever
Yes.
the story is, and I feel that it's really important to get your voice out there, your authentic voice, and your opinion does matter to you, and the fact that you dare to say what you feel and what you think, and you allow yourself to be that. You don't have to publish your story if you don't want to. I wanted to publish it. I wanted to help other people by reading my story, and I did. But I feel that each of us have their amazing story to tell,
That's true.
and we need to leave our legacy. We need to tell our stories. Otherwise, what are we? We just, living
So,
our life day by day, and nothing remains out of it.
so how many books have you written?
I've written 7 books, but one is a self-defense manual, so it's not really a book.
Yes.
And most of them are books that were written in collaboration with other authors that I managed and I put
Mm.
together.
Yeah.
And I've written the main chapters. Um, Undefeatable is a book that is all mine.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I wrote them all in 1 year, all in the lockdown year.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah,
So before we finish up, if I could have,
already.
if I could have anyone in your gym and you'd like to do a good session with anyone in the world, who would you love to have that you could really get on the punching bag and give a good time to?
Wow, so many people, dead or alive.
Uh, I'll give you a one each way, one dead, one alive. And you can't bring any ex-boyfriends in and bash them. You can't do anything like that. Who would you bring and why?
That's a really, really good question.
Yeah, a lot of see, I don't never give you the heads up. I'm going to ask any question. So
Oh my God, yeah.
just normally the people that our guests normally put up are the ones that just pop to their mind straight away.
Well, the dead one that popped into my mind for some reason was Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Uh,
I couldn't agree more. I'd be a great
I
guy to listen to.
yeah, exactly. I always had this soft spot for him, and
Yeah.
the way that I perceive him as someone who has been a victim
Yeah.
and who didn't have the power to fight till the end,
Yes.
but tried to constantly love and show the love to everybody.
Yeah.
So I would have a nice round with him and let him take things out and talk to me and things like that. And as someone who is alive, the first name that popped into my mind was Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
because he is such an inspiration to me. And it would be like a box and talk, kind of learning everything I can and hoping that I can teach something. And, he's a giant, and
He is.
I'm
He is.
small. So that would have been interesting to, to have that encounter between also different lives
Yeah.
and different energies that are the same in some ways, because I believe in many things that he's teaching, and
Mm.
he he has been a huge inspiration for me,
Yeah.
especially in days that
Yes.
I just moved to Italy and I had no money and nothing, and I would listen to his
His tapes.
recordings,
Yeah.
his audio books, and everything again and again. And it was this program, um, his first program, Live with Passion,
Yes.
was it
Yeah.
something like that? And he would talk there about how you can get out of situations and you can
You
live with
can.
passion, and and you can live with power and everything. I remember I was like cleaning the toilets in the bar and I was listening to him, and I'm like, this is going to pass. I can get through this. I will get through this. I'm unstoppable. And I would do it, and people wouldn't understand. They would see like, me cleaning toilets with the gloves and everything, and not even knowing Italian. But I'm smiling to myself and doing like things like this and things like this and things like this. And he
So
inspired me.
true. So, Mirav, where can people, if they want to hear a little bit more of what you do, see what this power coaching is all about, or buy your books, how do they find you?
Well, my books and my author page are on Amazon everywhere
Yes,
with my name, and my web page is not ready yet,
it's getting there.
but yeah, it's getting there. But I'm everywhere on social media. My main
Yeah.
platform is Facebook.
Yes, no worries
I'm
at
on
all.
LinkedIn also, and on Instagram I post occasional pictures of me. But I'm mostly on Facebook. Yeah, Mirav Tarkka. It's easy to find me because there's no one else with that name in the world.
That's
So
true. It wasn't very hard to do some research on you. Look, it's been an absolute fantastic chat with you this morning. We'll end it here because I can hear your voice is really starting to fade away,
yeah,
and you probably need a nice soft red to get it going again. You take care. You look after yourself over there in the south of Italy, and your two
yeah,
beautiful
you
young
too,
ladies.
out
And
there in Australia.
and as we always say at the end of every one of our podcasts, have a groovy day.